Welcome to the Dead Brain Podcast, the podcast where you can be a part of building an iOS app with me. Last week, we talked about the app itself, the app that we're building throughout this process. It is a quote app. Currently, I'm calling it Recall, but I want your help on naming this app as well. So if you have any ideas, do not forget to leave a comment down below. And if you're watching on YouTube, or hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. Everything's in the show notes or the description. You can find me out there. So we have this quote app, but now we have to start building it. But before we start building it, we should probably figure out the MVP of this app. But by MVP, I don't mean the most valuable player. I'm talking about the minimal viable product. What is the amount of work we can do to get something functional and valuable out into the App Store that Apple will approve and that people will actually enjoy. Now, I heard in a podcast a while back from the late, great, well, actually, he's not dead. I shouldn't say late. The amazing _ David Smith. Sorry, David, if you ever watch this or listen to this podcast. I didn't mean to imply that you were dead. I just am a big fan and you're amazing and your podcasts and everything that you do is awesome. Links down below to all his stuff as well. Sorry. That was. But anyway, David Smith talked about in one of his Developing Perspective podcasts years ago about how he wasn't a big fan of the MVP name, and it's kind of stuck with me. He referred to it as an MUP, basically, because the viable word, I had to look it back up, but in the definition that I saw, it basically said capable of working successfully. And just because something's capable of working successfully doesn't mean it's usable as much. So his way of saying that he likes the MUP word better, or the MUP version better, is that he wants to make sure he builds apps that not necessarily just work, but are usable, more intuitive, all that kind of stuff. You want to build something that people can actually, that's useful for people. You don't want to just build something to build something. And that's what I'm trying to do with this app. I'm trying to build something that people can actually find useful. What does a MUP version of this quote app mean? Well, I went through and I kind of came up with just a bunch of different stuff that all the different screens that this app's going to have. And it's basically going to have probably about 6 or 7 different screens, plus an onboarding of like 2 or 3. If you don't know what an onboarding is kind of like the first few screens that you see when you first download an app. It's kind of just enough to help the user through setting up and kind of understanding exactly how the app works. So we're going to have that in the app. Then you're going to have a main screen. This main screen is going to be the sections of the app. So whether you have motivational quotes, family quotes, funny quotes, whatever kind of sections you want to create, you'll be able to create. And that's where one of these other screens comes into play. So now you have this add screen for section. Now, how do we add sections? Well, I see it basically being a name and then some kind of switch to whether does this section have subsections or not. So like I said, with family, you have the ability to add subsections to that. You can do the same thing with motivations. Let's say you have motivation section and you want to have like fitness motivations, work motivations, whatever. Like, I don't know, maybe you're cooking and you want to have cooking motivations of people that cook and have good quotes. Whatever you want, you can have in this app. That's the great thing about this. We can make this app as simple yet versatile as possible pretty easily, I think. But so you have that screen and then you have like 2 other types of screens. So if a section has subsections, you click on the section and then you get the subsections. And then once you click on that, now you're getting to the actual quote list. So that's like 4 screens maybe or so right there. But then you have to have the add quote screen. This is where it gets fun. I love designing out and developing apps. Even though I'm not a designer, I always love just coming up with how many screens it's going to take, how much work do I think it's going to take. The ad screen, you're going to have the quote itself. You're going to have maybe the person that said the quote, the date the quote was said, or the date the quote was added. Not to mention that the fact that you're going to have settings screens and stuff like that for notifications. Because if you didn't watch or listen to last week, I talked about how this app is actually going to send notifications throughout based on like if you need motivational quotes or the widgets and controlling all those. It's so much fun to build apps. Like just talking about this makes me excited to get started on it because it's going to be a blast. But then you also have a whole search box and how you can actually like search, and you can search based on like the person that said it or maybe the quote itself. If you just remember just a little bit of the thing, there's going to be a whole search field in how to do this. But the problem is with creating apps is that sometimes you just don't want to stop. You just want to keep adding different things and having so much fun by adding new features that you have to create this minimal viable product or minimal usable product to make yourself stop, because you can just always add stuff. Like I would love to add the ability to not just store text, but store audio, store video. It's not endless. I was going to say that it's endless, but it's not. There's an end to this. We're talking about just a quote app here. There's going to be an end to what all I can add to this app, but it's a lot of fun and it's just enjoyable. And I just can't wait to get started on this and talking about it. I just want to end this podcast right now and start building it right this second. Can't do that because part of this is especially when I start, I'm going to start live streaming the process of building this app. So if you're not listening on YouTube already, be sure to head over to the YouTube account. The links are in the show notes and you can just join me. I'm going to be streaming live every other Tuesday of building this app, and you can add little suggestions throughout the process. This app is going to be a lot of fun to build. Back to the topic because I kind of went off a little tangent there. Minimal viable product, minimal usable product, either way, it's great. You need to have this set stone eventually. Right now, I don't fully have it, other than the fact that I know I'm holding off on this whole audio feature, this whole video feature. I'm not adding those. I'm not going to add like custom widgets, like the ability to customize the widgets that are displayed. They'll probably be pretty basic for the first version. I have to have things that have to wait till the next version. So eventually, as I'm building out this app, I'm going to set like, okay, these are the absolute must-have features. And then after this, I'm done. I have to stop. I have to say, okay, no more. Here's where it is, because if I don't, I will just continue to just add features. And that's where this MVP, MUP thing comes in handy. And it's just like a developer's way of stopping them from going too far and just making the app so bloated and making users wait so long before they can even submit it to the App Store. Apple may not approve the app. Now, in my case, I don't think I'm going to have an issue with getting this app approved. Stuff like this happens all the time. They might be doing something that Apple just doesn't like, and they're just like, sorry, this cannot be in the App Store. I've been in that case before, but I mean, I knew I was going to be in that case in this case. That's a lot of cases. I built an app back before you had like stickers in iMessage. You could create like a custom keyboard, and all these famous people were creating them. So I thought, you know what? If Justine could have one, I didn't even have a YouTube account or anything back then. I was like, I can have one. So I built my own. I took pictures of my face. I photoshopped just my face out, and I submitted it to the App Store as a custom keyboard, and I loved it. I would use it. I would put my face on people's pictures and all that kind of stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But you know what Apple did? They responded with a rejection notice. And basically, I can't remember what rule number was or whatever, but basically it was something about like, we don't see enough of a market for this app to be in the store. And so what they were saying was I was not popular enough for this app to be in the store. Now, I don't know who Apple thinks they are to say that I'm not popular enough. I told them, I responded. I was like, what are you talking about? My mom will download this app. My mom will have other people download this app. My mom will have random people download this app. It's going to be big. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that. but my mom probably would have. She's usually the first person to download my apps. I love you, Mom. You're the best. But yeah, so there's all this stuff that we have to get through. You just want to make sure you're not wasting your time on something. You want to get as little amount done to make sure there's no issues with Apple or with the product itself. It's a great way to put I won't want to say the least amount of work, because it's still a lot of work, but it's the best way to put the minimum amount into an app to know if there's a market for it, because that's what a lot of developers use this minimal viable product for, is they want to find out if there's even a market for this app. If they submit it and it does horrible, a lot of them just move on to the next. Now, I'm not sure how this app's going to work. I'm not sure if it's going to be successful at all. I know it will get approved. I'm not worried there, but it may not be successful. But I'm not giving up if it's not. Like, I'm not going to just be like, okay, it didn't succeed. Let's move on to the next one right away. Season 2 is going to be adding features to this app, and I want you to be a part of that as well. So once we get to that part, hit me up. Any other features you want. If you want to see this audio, the video, we're going to be doing polls, all this other kind of stuff to see what features and when I should add them and all that once we get to that stage. If you didn't see the last episode, you can click on it right here, or the next episode when it's available, it will be right there. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. God bless.